Hi guys, welcome to Rufio, it's Joe here. Apologies if we have any crazy fucking sounds in the background. We're on a gaming night at the store, so a few people outside playing some games, getting rowdy, and I've got the privilege of having the side room to record this in, so shout out to Manascrew for giving me the space to record before we get started. What I wanted to bring to you today was the zombie deck that I've been thinking about doing for some time now. I've been looking at the structure decks that came out and thought that they had some real potential, especially from a budget perspective, to just have a lot of fun with. So I thought I'd buy 3 of them today. I've picked them up and then I've thrown in a few cards I had spare, usable, that I really wanted to put into this and just sort of build the best I could on a real budget so that you guys out there who can't necessarily spend big can still have some fun and have a reasonably competitive deck. So without much more fucking around, the main reason that this deck is so good, this card is absolutely nuts. I played against zombies, just the once today, but I know a couple of people were playing them. This card is really, really stupid. I think the 3 is overkill, 2 is absolutely fine. But yeah, this card is absolutely nuts. Definitely look up its effect if you're not aware. It's got banish and negate effect. That kind of stuff. It's got easy revival. The deck sort of revolves around getting this out as quickly as possible, but I think 3 still is too much, 2 is perfect. You definitely want to get this out as quickly as you can. Moving on, so we're moving on to the rest of the zombie style monsters. I was kind of torn on how I wanted to go with this build, but what I decided to do was do 3 solitaire and 1 Spirit Master. Now, most of my zombie kind of ideas are based on how the old 60 card decks are played. So I wanted to try and keep to similar ratios where possible. Obviously, you can't have all the crazy explosive extenders. It's a bit more refined. I think 3 of these and 1 of these is absolutely perfect. This gets you a nice pop, and these have obviously got all their crazy fucking effects. This card is absolutely awesome. Absolutely must play this at 3. I think 1 of these is nice. It's better in some formats than others. It's really good for removing, pesky like floodgates or difficult monsters and that kind of thing. So yeah, really cool to just have those 4 together. I don't really think any of the other Shiranui cards are worth considering in this particular build, but you may want to add them yourself. I decided to run triple Mizuki and 1 Gozuki. I think 1 of these is absolutely perfect. I think 2 is just overkill. It's nice being able to chuck stuff in the grave nice and easy, but I feel that its utility sort of ends there. Triple Mizuki is a must-have. You want to just keep getting these cards out as quickly as possible. Being able to just continuously keep reviving stuff in the grave is absolutely nuts. It's just free cards and free rank 4 plays if you decide to go down the route of similar to how I've built this one myself. We've gone with triple Uni Zombie. Again, it's another one of the most important cards in the deck. You can turn it into a level 4 so that you can make those rank 4 plays, or you can make 7 synchros, or you can make 8 synchros if you want to. You can dump stuff in the grave. This is a real engine starter. If you open this, you're normally pretty golden. Yeah, it just really kicks the engine and gets it going. We then move on to Double Zombie Master. I don't really know how I feel about this. I think it's one of those cards where it's just nice to be able to include it. It is a really easy way to just get a free summon on board. It does use your normal summon, which isn't the best in the world. It isn't as good as it once was. But just being able to get an extra monster out again, go into a rank 4 play, go into a synchro play, go into a link play. It's just an easy way to climb up and build a better board. I've got 2 Necrowell Banshee. Again, you want to see Zombie World as quickly as possible. There are some decks that when Zombie World is on the field, they just lose. Unless they can out it, they are in real fucking trouble. So this is quite cool to be able to get there. But that is pretty much all it does. So it's just there to get Zombie World as quickly as possible. Now I've got 3 one-offs here for the monster cards. One of these I was really unsure about. I had a little bit of space and I was trying to see what I could play that was still budget friendly and kind of spicy, and I felt might have some additional utility to keep the deck going, to keep the consistency going. I actually opted to play 1 Immortal Ruler. I quite like the idea of being able to just get back the Zombie World. People, a lot of the time, once they realise that the Zombie World is a really key part of the play in this deck, they'll try and out it as quickly as possible. And Immortal Ruler just gives you another way to get it back. Unfortunately, it does use your normal summon and it can't be special summon, which sucks. But just being able to get that Zombie World back, especially once you've gone through the 3, you kind of run out of steam. This is just another way to keep you in the game. So you can just hold this in your hand, and if you get into late game, if it's a little bit of a grind, it's just another way to get back there. The final two cards I'm putting in are Glow of Bloom. This gets you to your Balladrock, or however the hell you pronounce the thing. This gets you there as quickly as possible. It's also a level 1, so it's got some additional utility, which we'll talk about a bit later on. And then I also wanted to go with the original Glow Up monster, and that is Glow Up Bulb. This will also open up some additional synchro plays for you, and it also means that these two are both 1-for-1 targets, so you've got a way to resolve it most of the time. And if nothing else, they're a free link climb material. Then moving on to spells. So I've built this ideally to go first. And you could build this as more going second build. There are a few cards that I would have liked to have played, but I felt that they were strictly better for going second. You can, however, chop this up however you want. So as this is going first build, you'll see that my choices in this video reflect that as best as I possibly can. So we go on to triple Zombie World. Again, this sort of keeps the deck ticking. There are a lot of decks that struggle to out this, especially you know, decks that rely on their types. You know, switching those up can cause them some real grief. So having that there is really cool. It also switches on some additional effects throughout your deck, such as Bloom, that kind of thing. So just being able to constantly abuse this is really, really cool. Also the fact that it now allows you, it turns everything zombie. So if there are any additional cards that you've got engraved that you can bring back purely on the basis of them being zombie, you can do that now. This gives you that additional sort of way to get to them. Moving on, we've got 2 terraforming. It's not always reliable that your banshees are going to pull off, and you kind of just want to get to zombie world, like I said, as quick as possible. You're not always going to do those banshees. You don't want 3 banshees because they only really serve on purpose. So terraforming is just another way to get there. So that gives you 4 ways to get to that field card as quickly as possible. And yeah, I just feel that that's a really, really cool way to do it. It just means as well that you can save your summon for something else if need be. As I'm running the going first build, I took inspiration from the structure decks themselves. I decided to put in triple shared ride. There are some formats where this will punish people more than others. Again, this isn't really a top-end competitive deck. I'd be lying to you if I said it was. However, if you're playing against stuff like Sky Strikers and that kind of thing, this is going to give you some really good ways to just dig deep and just punish decks for overextending, basically. And it'll just give you some extra ways to get through your deck. See the cards you need to when you need to see them. This deck does have some issues with kind of fragility, if that's the word I'm looking for. It can sometimes find itself struggling when cards get stopped, and you can't really afford for that to happen. So as a way to try and help prevent that, the back at 3 Call by the Grave. Absolutely fantastic for stopping hand traps. A lot of people have wised up to this, so there are more people playing in permanents where possible, or gammas. But there are still, you know, Ash is just fantastic. And to be able to stop that, it is one of those cards that most people put in the deck if they can. This is a way to get there. It has some fringe play as well. It's not just for hand traps. There are cards that go off in the grave that you can sort of fuck with, if you will. And this will just help you get there. It's a good way of protecting your field, and it's a good way of making sure that your plays get to go through. Moving on, this deck can have some issues with back row, particularly floodgates. Twin Twisters is a really, really good way to obviously make sure you clear it off the board. Although we are going first, and this would normally be a going second choice, the fact that you can set it and activate is great. If you are forced to go second for any reason, then it can go straight away. It's not a problem. But it's just, yeah, it is what it is. It's back row removal, which is really, really important in the game. Especially at the moment, we've got a lot of like older guys kicking about and that kind of thing on a high level. So we want to sort of take care of those as best we can. Just be careful not to pop that Waking the Dragon. I've got 2 Gold Sark. These will trigger off your Shiranuis when they're banished. But it also can help you get to some additional pieces you might need to get to as quickly as possible. It does mean you have to wait a couple of turns for the cards, but it is what it is. I just think it's a cool way to get there, and it's got some real, you know, helpful benefits in that sense. If nothing else, you can, you know, get rid of your Spirit Master and just pop a card in the field. Sometimes it's actually a really, really, really important play, and it'll get you over the line to where you need to be. Moving on, it wouldn't be a zombie deck if we couldn't bring shit back. So, we've got One Monster Reborn. It is what it is. It's a crazy powerful card. It's still really, really important in the modern game. It still does bits for so many decks. Just being able to revive stuff is fantastic. Much like that, as we're going first, we want to play Soul Charge. I would highly advise you side this out after your first game. Normally, because you're going to be starting to think about time, and that damage to your life points is not something you want to risk. But if you know that you're going first for sure, Soul Charge is absolutely fantastic. You make all your plays, and then you reset. Basically, you get to reuse all those monsters again. Card Destruction. This is a card that you have to be very, very careful with. A lot of decks benefit from having their graveyards loaded, but so does yours. So if you're in a position where you really feel that you can sort of really struggle, cause your opponents to struggle, this is a good way. Opponents also have this weird thing, like, the more you get into Yu-Gi-Oh!, the more you realise on, like, subliminal cues that people give off. And a lot of people, a lot of the time, will honestly admit to you when they've got a really good hand, or you'll see it on their face. And sometimes you can just absolutely rip it to shreds by playing this at the right time. And again, if you open this, you can load up your graveyard and you've got a ton of utility to go off from there. Moving on to the last two cards, they are one-offs as well. We've got one Foolish Burial. This is a graveyard-based deck. This is kind of, you want to dump stuff in there as much as possible and go from there. It wouldn't be so if, this is just fantastic. It's an old card and it is still going strong. It's at 1 for a reason. And speaking of 1, we have 1 for 1. You want to get into those glow-ups as quickly as possible. They're going to help you see those plays. And, it's got some additional benefits. But just, if nothing else, you can link climb with it. And it's just going to get your engine going. It's a special summon, which is cool. And you get discard, which dumping something like a Mizuki can open up a lot of ways for you to go forward. I haven't done a side deck, but I have got the extra deck here. Now, this isn't perfect. And again, this is just based on the knowledge of I wanted to try and make this as budget friendly as possible. I wanted you to be able to go out and basically buy these structure decks if you want to, and maybe just pick up 1 or 2 cards to go along, or just use staples that you should really have kicking about, or cards that can be kind of used in any deck. So, we've got the 1 Linkuriboh. This is for those plays, as mentioned, with your Bulb and your Bloom. That's going to help you with that. 1 Vampire Sucker. There is a reason that this card has absolutely shot up in price. The demand is so high. I remember when this first came out, I actually struggled to sell it. And now it's basically triple the price that it was when I got rid of mine. Just being able to draw, just the +1 effect is great anyway. And there's obviously the other effect as well, which is kind of cool, being able to special summon. We have a small Nightmare package. Now, I would always recommend that you use Unicorn as well, but given that I wanted to try and keep this as budget-friendly as possible, I didn't put it in. I would say, though, that if you have it, absolutely play it, but these two, easy link 2s to make, easy utility, you're just going to pop a special summon monster or a back row, again, dealing with like pesky floodgates, that kind of thing, and the fact that it's just any 2 monsters with different names is really, really cool. They're also good for link climbing. I have 1 Reprodocus. It's cool. It's basically there to try and help you get into Summon Talk. There's not always going to be the case where you have just zombies on the field. There's going to be times where your zombie world's dead and you've got a couple of links or whatever, and you want to be able to make a play. And this will help you get into Summon Sorceress and Summon Sorceress as well. Just spend a bit of time looking at what she does. She's fantastic, and she's now very budget-friendly with the reprint. I have probably the most expensive card in here coming up now. Just Bania. This deck really does suffer with problematic back row cards. Just being able to remove them. Like, if you come up against a deck where they're just full of back rows and you get this on board, they know the game is up. Like, you've basically won at that stage, unless they've got something really cool down. This is awesome for that. And the fact that you can special summon so easy, you can just get this on board, hop a Mizuki out, and then you can special summon from grave, and off you go. Banish in, pop in, going crazy, doing a bit of burn, and doing a bit of work. And finally, I got 1 Decode Talker. This is finally for the links, I should say. So, it's just a generic 3. It's going to help you get there. It's a good beat stick. It's got protection effect. It's just a really good all-rounder. It can go in a lot of decks where you've got the space to play it. It's just a really good generic link 3. Moving on, I've got some XE's monsters. So, again, these are all budget-friendly, so there are probably some slightly better choices out there, but I feel that these are good for value for money. So we've got 1 Exiton Knight. Since this has come off, it is nice and cheap to pick up. There's no real reason why you shouldn't be able to get hold of this unless you're on a really tight budget. But it is what it is. This card will help you get back in the game if you are struggling. Sometimes this could be the only play that you make, and it's going to get you there. If you're forced to go second, it's a good way to clear up the board. Evenly matched is not budget friendly for most players, so this is kind of a pseudo evenly matched in that sense. I have, moving on to another ranked monster, 1 Tornado Dragon. Again, it was reprinted, so it is a little bit cheaper now. Again, pops and deals with pesky back row. Easy to make because it's a 4, much like all the other rank monsters in here. We have 1 Bujinki Amaterasu. You are banishing a lot in this, and you kind of want some way to be able to recur it, some way to get cards back. This is going to enable you to get there. A lot of people will balk at this because it's 3 level 4 monsters, but actually, when you think about it in hindsight, it's basically 2. Because you're going to use 3 to make it, but you're going to get one of those back straight away, pretty much. So the way to think of it is basically like using 2. You just have to have the 3 up front as like a deposit, if you will, and you're going to get much more benefit from that. To round off the rank monsters, we've got 1 number 39 Utopia, dual terminal version, expensive version of a cheap card. And we've got 1 Utopia the Lightning. Finally, they reprinted this, as you know, earlier last year. Fantastic card. It's a good way to just win the game. It can out some really problematic stuff that you otherwise wouldn't be able to kill. It will just get you over the line sometimes. And again, because this is budget friendly, we don't have like Boral Sword in here. This will fulfill a similar role. It's certainly nowhere near as good, and there's a reason that people play Boral Sword over it. But if you are budget conscious and you want an easy way to get there, this will help you get there. And then we're just moving on to the last 2 cards in the extra deck. These are 2 synchros. I decided eventually to opt not to use the zombie that comes in the structure deck. I didn't feel it was strong enough. I feel like it's got a cool one-time effect. It's sort of like a cool... what's the word I want to look for? I don't know. It's just not powerful enough. And I feel that there's better options out there in terms of value for what you're putting in. So, we played the Glow Up Bulb purely so we can have access to this. We are going first. If you can get this on, there's a lot of decks that this just switches off. If you do this against Sky Strikers, they lose. Like, there's no doubt about it. They've lost. They can force you to do a load of mills and get a load of stuff engraved. The best they can do is try and hop up like a Gagari till it's big enough to hit over, or bring it down using the Shizuku. But by then they've used so many resources, and the deck, it needs to keep those resources rolling, and if it can't, it's in real trouble. And the fact that you're going to keep milling stuff that is then going to benefit from being in the grave is just absolutely nuts. The amount of advantage you're going to have is crazy. So this card is absolutely awesome. I believe it's being reprinted again, if I'm not mistaken. But I think, you know, in terms of British money, it's about a £5 card. So it's not too crazy, but it is absolutely excellent and it's very easy to make. And then finally, we have 1 Black Rose Dragon. So I was toying with a few different synchros. There are some other cool synchros out there that you could use. Omega springs to mind, the fact that you're playing so many 4s, and the fact that it can keep putting stuff back that is banished. There are plenty of options out there of what you could use. But Black Rose is really good as just a generic field wipe. It is very, very easy to pick up. It has been printed a dozen times by now, I'm pretty confident. And it does a job. It does exactly what it needs to do. It gets you over the line. So that is it for the profile, guys. Thank you very much for checking in. Again, this was intended purely to be as budget friendly as possible. So what I wanted to do was obviously get you there without you spending too much money in your head. So thank you very much for watching again. I am Rufio. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to, you can find me on some other means of communication. I have a Facebook and a Twitter which you can get hold of me on. I'm really, really good at replying to people. I try to be as much as possible. And if you have any questions, fire them over. I will be more than happy to help you as best I can. Shout out again to Mark for giving me the space to record this. You've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. I'm afraid that's all we have time for in this video. If by chance you haven't had enough of listening to me waffle at you through a video about a children's card game, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. The links are on the screen, or if you're feeling really lazy, you can click the links in the description. While you're at it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content too. It'll make me smile, I promise. And who can ask for more than that? Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.